One day, life becomes quieter than you expected. The phone rings less. People become busy. Conversations become shorter. And slowly, you begin to spend more time alone. For many people, this thought creates fear. They imagine old age as a time of loneliness, emptiness, and silence. But Buddhism teaches something very different. Being alone is not a problem. Being disconnected from inner peace is the real problem. There are people who are surrounded by many others, yet they feel lonely. And there are people who live alone, yet they feel deeply peaceful. The difference is not in how many people are around you. The difference is in how strong your mind becomes. Old age does not have to be a time of sadness. It can become the most peaceful stage of life, if you learn how to live with yourself. Today we will explore 5 powerful Buddhist lessons that can help you feel calm, strong, and truly happy, even when you are alone. Because true happiness does not come from the presence of people. It comes from the presence of peace within you. 1. Stop seeking happiness from people. One of the deepest causes of suffering in old age is expectation. For many years, life moves with constant activity. There are responsibilities, work, family duties, social gatherings, and daily conversations that keep the mind occupied. During this long period of life, we slowly become used to feeling needed. We become used to feeling important because people depend on us, talk to us, and seek our guidance. But as time moves forward, circumstances begin to change. Children grow up and become busy with their own responsibilities. Friends become occupied with their own families. Social circles become smaller. Life becomes quieter. When this change happens, many people begin to feel that something is missing. They feel that the love and attention they once received is becoming less. They start expecting others to give them more time, more importance, more appreciation. But when these expectations are not fulfilled, the heart begins to feel heavy. A person may start thinking that they are being ignored or forgotten. This feeling creates sadness, not because people intentionally want to hurt us, but because life naturally changes as time passes. Buddhism teaches that attachment to expectations creates emotional suffering. When we expect others to behave in a certain way in order for us to feel happy, we give away control of our inner peace. Our emotional state becomes dependent on something that is always changing. People's moods change, their schedules change, their priorities change, and sometimes their ability to give time also changes. If our happiness depends on these changing circumstances, our peace will never remain stable. Wise people understand that love should exist without emotional dependence. They care deeply for others, but they do not attach their inner stability to how much attention they receive. They understand that relationships are beautiful, but expecting others to constantly fulfill our emotional needs can create silent pressure inside the heart. This pressure slowly turns into disappointment, and disappointment slowly turns into sadness. In old age, emotional freedom begins when expectations become lighter. This does not mean that we stop loving people. It means that we stop expecting people to become the only source of our happiness. When expectations reduce, appreciation increases. Instead of focusing on what is missing, the mind begins to notice what is still present. A peaceful morning becomes meaningful. The sound of birds becomes soothing. A simple cup of tea becomes comforting. A gentle walk becomes refreshing. Small, peaceful moments begin to feel more valuable than loud, temporary pleasures. When happiness becomes simple, the heart becomes stable. Simple happiness does not depend on anyone's approval. It does not depend on constant attention. It does not disappear when circumstances change. It quietly stays with you, giving you calmness even when the world around you becomes silent. The moment a person stops demanding happiness from others, they begin to discover happiness within themselves. They realized that peace was never absent. It was only hidden behind expectations. By letting go of the need for constant validation and attention, the heart slowly becomes lighter. And when the heart becomes lighter, old age becomes less fearful and more peaceful. True emotional strength in old age comes from understanding that people may not always be available, but inner peace can always remain available. The person who learns to reduce expectations learns to reduce unnecessary suffering, and the person who learns to find happiness within becomes emotionally independent. This independence creates a calm confidence that allows a person to live peacefully without feeling empty or forgotten. Happiness that depends on others is always unstable because people's lives constantly change, but happiness that comes from within remains steady even when everything else changes. This is why Buddhism teaches that peace begins when we stop expecting the world to constantly comfort us and start allowing our own mind to become a place of comfort. 2. Learn to enjoy your own company. One of the greatest fears many people experience in old age is the fear of being alone. For most of their lives, they were surrounded by family, friends, colleagues, and responsibilities that kept them constantly engaged. Their time was filled with conversations, work, decisions, and social interaction. Because of this, they rarely had the chance to truly sit with themselves in silence. Their attention was always directed outward, toward other people and daily duties. But as life moves forward, the pace begins to slow down. Responsibilities become fewer, social circles become smaller, children become busy with their own lives, the home becomes quieter, and for the first time in many years, a person may find themselves spending long periods of time alone. For someone who has never learned to enjoy their own company, this silence can feel uncomfortable. The mind may begin to feel restless, thoughts may begin to wander, the heart may feel empty simply because there is no external distraction. This is why many people mistakenly believe that being alone automatically means being lonely. Buddhism teaches something very important. Loneliness does not come from being alone. Loneliness comes from feeling disconnected from yourself. When a person does not feel comfortable with their own thoughts, silence feels heavy. But when a person learns to build a peaceful relationship with themselves, silence becomes healing. Solitude becomes a space where the mind can finally rest. Learning to enjoy your own company is one of the most powerful skills a person can develop, especially in old age. It allows you to feel complete without needing constant presence from others. It allows you to experience peace without depending on external entertainment or validation. When you are comfortable with yourself, time alone becomes meaningful instead of painful. You begin to notice things you previously ignored. You begin to observe your thoughts more clearly. You begin to understand your own emotions more deeply. This self-understanding creates emotional stability. Old age offers a rare opportunity that many people never get during busy years of life. It offers time for reflection, time for awareness, time for calm observation of the journey you have experienced. Instead of seeing this time as emptiness, wise people see it as freedom. Freedom from constant pressure, freedom from unnecessary noise, freedom from trying to meet everyone's expectations. When you learn to enjoy your own company, you begin to create small, peaceful routines that bring quiet satisfaction. You may enjoy reading something meaningful. You may enjoy sitting in silence and allowing your mind to slow down. You may enjoy observing nature. You may enjoy writing your thoughts or reflecting on your experiences. These simple activities create a feeling of connection with yourself. As this connection becomes stronger, the fear of being alone becomes weaker. You begin to realize that you are not missing anything essential. You begin to feel that your own presence is enough to create calmness. You begin to feel emotionally independent. People who enjoy their own company do not feel abandoned when they are alone. They feel peaceful because their mind is not demanding constant stimulation. Their heart is not dependent on constant conversation. They have developed the ability to remain calm in silence. Buddhism teaches that the mind becomes peaceful when it stops constantly searching for distraction. Many people spend their entire lives running from silence because silence forces them to face their own thoughts. But when you slowly learn to sit with your thoughts without fear, the mind begins to settle. In old age, this ability becomes extremely valuable. Instead of feeling restless, a person begins to feel grounded. Instead of feeling empty, a person begins to feel complete. Instead of feeling lonely, a person begins to feel free. The person who learns to enjoy their own company develops a quiet strength that does not depend on circumstances. They do not feel uncomfortable when there is no crowd. They do not feel anxious when there is no conversation. Their peace is not dependent on external noise. True emotional maturity appears when a person becomes comfortable being alone without feeling incomplete. Because when you are able to sit peacefully with yourself, you begin to realize that happiness does not always need excitement. Sometimes, happiness is simply a calm mind. Old age becomes peaceful when solitude becomes a companion instead of a burden. And when solitude becomes comfortable, the heart becomes light. 3. Detach from the need for constant attention. One of the most silent and painful struggles many people experience in old age is the feeling of being ignored. When life becomes quieter, the mind often begins to notice how much attention it is receiving from others. A person may begin to feel hurt when the phone does not ring as often as before. They may feel unimportant when messages become shorter or less frequent. They may feel forgotten when visits become rare. Slowly, the heart starts believing that attention from others is the measure of their value. But Buddhism teaches that the desire for constant attention creates deep emotional suffering. Attention is something that naturally changes over time. People become busy with work, responsibilities, children, and their own challenges. Their schedules become full, and sometimes they are simply unable to give as much time as before. This change does not always mean they care less. Often, it simply means life has become more demanding for them. When a person depends on constant attention in order to feel important, their peace becomes unstable. Their emotional state begins to rise and fall based on how often someone calls, how quickly someone replies, or how much time someone gives them. This creates a restless mind that is always waiting for reassurance. The heart begins to seek proof that it still matters, and this constant need slowly creates anxiety and disappointment. Wise people understand that attention from others can never remain constant throughout life. Relationships evolve, responsibilities grow, and time becomes limited. If we attach our sense of worth to how much attention we receive, we create unnecessary pain for ourselves. Buddhism encourages emotional independence, which means learning to feel complete even when external validation is not present. Detaching from the need for constant attention does not mean we stop caring about people. It simply means we stop measuring our importance through their availability. We stop assuming that less attention means less value. We stop believing that silence from others means we are forgotten. In old age, emotional strength grows when we shift our focus from seeking attention to creating inner stability. Instead of waiting for others to fill our time, we learn to fill our own time with peaceful and meaningful activities. Instead of constantly checking whether someone has called, we begin to create routines that bring quiet satisfaction. We give our mind something valuable to focus on instead of feeding unnecessary worry. A person who detaches from the need for constant attention develops a calm confidence. They understand that people may not always be present, but peace can still be present. They accept that everyone has their own journey, their own struggles, and their own responsibilities. This understanding removes feelings of personal rejection Buddhism teaches that suffering often begins when we take everything personally. When someone does not call, the mind quickly creates negative stories. It may assume that we are no longer important. It may assume that we are being ignored intentionally. But often these assumptions are not true. They are simply thoughts created by a restless mind seeking reassurance. When we learn to observe these thoughts without immediately believing them, the mind becomes calmer. We begin to understand that attention is not the foundation of our worth. Our value does not increase when someone gives us time, and it does not decrease when someone is busy. Our worth remains constant, regardless of how much attention we receive. Detachment from attention creates emotional freedom. It removes the pressure of constantly needing validation. It allows the heart to relax. Instead of feeling empty when there is silence, we begin to feel peaceful. Instead of feeling forgotten, we begin to feel independent. Many wise people use this stage of life to reconnect with simple habits that bring inner contentment. They spend time reading meaningful words that nourish the mind. They sit quietly and observe their thoughts without judgment. They take slow walks and allow their mind to breathe. They practice reflection, which brings clarity and emotional balance. As these habits grow stronger, the need for constant attention becomes weaker. The mind begins to feel satisfied without needing constant interaction. The heart begins to feel stable without needing constant reassurance. A quiet confidence begins to appear, and this confidence does not depend on anyone. Old age becomes emotionally peaceful when attention is no longer treated as emotional survival. When a person stops depending on attention, they stop feeling hurt by its absence. They stop feeling incomplete when others are busy. They stop waiting for validation in order to feel valued. Buddhism reminds us that everything in life changes, including the amount of attention we receive. When we accept this truth, we stop resisting natural changes. We stop fighting reality. Instead, we adapt with wisdom. True peace comes when a person understands that attention from others is temporary, but inner stability can remain permanent. The person who learns to detach from the need for constant attention develops emotional strength that protects them from unnecessary pain. They learn to appreciate people without depending on them. They learn to value connection without fearing distance. When the need for constant attention fades, the heart becomes lighter. When the heart becomes lighter, the mind becomes calmer. And when the mind becomes calmer, old age becomes more peaceful and dignified. Because true emotional security comes from knowing that even when no one is around, you are still complete. 4. Simplicity creates peace in old age. As life moves forward, many things that once felt extremely important slowly begin to lose their intensity. The worries that once filled the mind every day begin to appear less meaningful. The need to compete with others becomes weaker. The desire to prove something to the world becomes less urgent. With time, a person begins to see life more clearly, and this clarity often reveals a very powerful truth. Peace does not come from having more. Peace comes from needing less. During younger years, life often feels like a constant race. There are goals to achieve, responsibilities to manage, expectations to fulfill, and comparisons that create pressure. Many people spend decades trying to improve their status, increase their possessions, or gain recognition from others. The mind becomes busy, trying to keep up with everything. Even when something is achieved, another desire quickly takes its place. This continuous cycle creates restlessness, but old age has the potential to bring a different kind of wisdom. It allows a person to step back from the race and observe life from a calmer perspective. It becomes easier to recognize that many things we once chased did not bring lasting peace. Some achievements brought temporary happiness, but the mind quickly became busy again. Some possessions gave comfort, but they also created new worries. Some comparisons created motivation, but they also created pressure. Buddhism teaches that the more complicated life becomes, the more disturbed the mind becomes. When the mind is filled with too many desires, too many worries, and too many expectations, it struggles to remain calm. But when life becomes simple, the mind begins to slow down. It begins to relax. It begins to feel lighter. Simplicity does not mean giving up everything. It means understanding what truly matters and reducing what does not bring real value. It means letting go of unnecessary pressure. It means creating a life that supports calmness instead of constant tension. In old age, simplicity becomes especially powerful because the mind no longer needs constant stimulation. Instead of searching for excitement, the heart begins to appreciate stability. A peaceful environment becomes more valuable than a busy environment. A calm routine becomes more comforting than an unpredictable lifestyle. Simple living reduces mental noise. When there are fewer unnecessary distractions, the mind becomes clearer. When there are fewer unrealistic expectations, the heart becomes more satisfied. A person begins to feel content with ordinary moments that once felt insignificant. A simple daily routine can create a deep sense of emotional balance. Waking up at a comfortable time, sitting quietly for a few moments, enjoying a warm drink, observing the morning light, or listening to natural sounds can create a gentle beginning to the day. These small moments bring calmness to the mind without requiring effort or pressure. Simplicity also removes the burden of constantly trying to impress others. Many people spend years worrying about how they appear in the eyes of society. They worry about opinions, judgments, and comparisons. But as wisdom grows, a person begins to understand that peace is more valuable than approval. When life becomes simple, the need to prove something to others slowly disappears. A person becomes comfortable with who they are. They no longer feel the need to constantly demonstrate success or importance. This freedom removes a heavy emotional burden. Gratitude naturally increases when life becomes simple. When expectations become realistic, small blessings begin to feel meaningful. A peaceful home environment feels comforting. A familiar routine feels stable. A quiet moment feels refreshing. The mind stops constantly searching for something more and begins to appreciate what already exists. Buddhism teaches that contentment is one of the greatest forms of wealth. A person who feels content with simple things experiences less inner conflict. Their happiness does not depend on constantly acquiring something new. Their peace does not depend on constant external excitement. Old age becomes emotionally lighter when a person understands that not everything needs to be complicated. Many worries can be released. Many comparisons can be abandoned. Many pressures can be reduced. The mind becomes calmer when it is no longer overloaded with unnecessary concerns. Simplicity also creates emotional space for reflection. When life is not filled with constant noise, the mind has time to process experiences. It has time to understand lessons learned through the years. It has time to develop wisdom. This wisdom brings emotional stability that cannot be easily shaken. A simple life allows a person to focus on what truly brings peace. Gentle conversations, quiet reflection, calm surroundings, and meaningful thoughts begin to feel more valuable than constant activity. The heart begins to feel satisfied with less, and this satisfaction creates a stable form of happiness. Many people discover that when they simplify their lifestyle, they feel less stress and more clarity. They feel less pressure and more calmness. They feel less restlessness and more acceptance. This acceptance creates a deep sense of relief because the mind no longer feels forced to constantly chase something. Old age becomes peaceful when life becomes uncomplicated. When unnecessary desires are reduced, emotional balance becomes easier to maintain. When expectations become realistic, disappointment becomes less frequent. When the focus shifts from having more to appreciating more, the heart becomes content. Simplicity teaches us that happiness does not always come from extraordinary moments. Often, it quietly exists within ordinary experiences. The warmth of sunlight, the comfort of familiar surroundings, the silence of early morning, and the gentle rhythm of daily life can create a peaceful state of mind. Buddhism reminds us that true peace is not created by controlling everything around us. True peace is created by calming the mind within us, and a calm mind grows more easily in a simple life. When a person learns to live simply, they also learn to live peacefully. They no longer feel the need to chase every desire or follow every expectation. They become more selective about where they place their energy. They choose calmness over chaos. They choose contentment over comparison. In old age, this choice becomes extremely valuable, because when life becomes simple, the heart becomes light. When the heart becomes light, the mind becomes peaceful. And when the mind becomes peaceful, happiness becomes natural. Simplicity does not reduce the beauty of life. It reveals the beauty that was always present but often ignored. It allows a person to experience peace without needing constant excitement. It allows the heart to rest without feeling incomplete. This is why simplicity creates peace in old age, because when we need less, we suffer less. And when we suffer less, we finally experience the quiet happiness that was always available within us. 5. Build inner peace that does not depend on anyone. The greatest strength a person can develop in life is inner peace that does not depend on anyone or anything outside. This type of peace is not affected by people's behavior, changing situations, or unexpected difficulties. It is a stable calmness that stays with a person even when life becomes quiet, uncertain, or slow. In old age, this inner peace becomes especially valuable because external sources of comfort may not always be available in the same way they once were. Throughout life, many people unknowingly build their emotional stability on temporary things. They feel happy when people appreciate them, and they feel hurt when they feel ignored. They feel secure when they are surrounded by activity, and they feel uncomfortable when life becomes silent. Their emotional state keeps changing according to what is happening around them. This creates instability because external conditions never remain the same. Buddhism teaches that true peace begins when we understand the nature of life. Everything changes, situations change, relationships change, health changes, circumstances change. Even our own thoughts change from moment to moment. When we expect life to always remain the same, we create resistance within the mind. This resistance creates stress, disappointment, and emotional discomfort. But when we slowly accept that change is a natural part of life, the mind becomes more flexible. Instead of feeling shocked when life becomes quieter, we begin to understand that this is simply another stage of the journey. Instead of feeling empty when external activity becomes less, we begin to see this as an opportunity to strengthen inner stability. Inner peace is developed through awareness. It begins when a person learns to observe their thoughts without becoming controlled by them. Many times, the mind creates unnecessary worries by imagining negative possibilities. It may create fear about the future, regret about the past, or dissatisfaction about the present. But not every thought needs to be believed. Thoughts are temporary movements in the mind, and they often change quickly. Buddhism encourages the practice of awareness, which means noticing thoughts without immediately reacting to them. When a person observes their thoughts calmly, they begin to understand that many worries lose their power when they are not constantly repeated. Awareness creates space between the person and their thoughts, and this space brings calmness. Inner peace also grows when a person learns acceptance. Acceptance does not mean giving up. It means understanding that some things are simply beyond control. People cannot always behave the way we want. Situations cannot always develop the way we expect. The past cannot be changed, and the future cannot be fully predicted. When we accept these realities, the mind stops struggling against things it cannot control. In old age, acceptance becomes a source of strength. A person begins to understand that life has always been a series of changes. Some moments were joyful, some were difficult, some were exciting, and some were quiet. Every stage brought its own lessons. Old age is simply another stage, and it also contains valuable lessons. Inner peace becomes stronger when a person stops defining their happiness through external circumstances. Instead of asking whether everything around them is perfect, they begin to focus on whether their mind is peaceful. External perfection is impossible, but inner balance is possible. Many wise individuals use old age as a time to deepen their understanding of life. They reflect on experiences they have lived through. They notice how many worries from the past eventually disappeared. They recognize that many fears were temporary. This understanding brings emotional maturity. When a person realizes that life has always been changing, they become less afraid of future changes. They begin to trust that they can adapt. They begin to trust their own ability to remain calm. This trust creates emotional stability. Inner peace also develops when a person learns to let go of unnecessary emotional burdens. Holding on to anger, regret, or resentment for long periods creates heaviness in the heart. But when a person learns to slowly release these burdens, the mind begins to feel lighter. Forgiveness, understanding, and patience create space for calmness to grow. Buddhism reminds us that peace does not come from controlling every situation. Peace comes from controlling how we respond to situations. When a person trains their mind to remain balanced, external events lose the power to disturb their inner state. Old age can become a time of deep wisdom because there is more opportunity for reflection. The pace of life becomes slower, which allows the mind to observe more clearly. Instead of constantly reacting, a person begins to respond with patience. Instead of feeling rushed, they begin to move with awareness. A peaceful mind begins to appreciate the present moment more deeply. Instead of constantly worrying about what has passed or what might happen, a person learns to focus on what is happening now. The present moment often contains more peace than the restless mind realizes. When a person builds inner peace, they no longer feel dependent on constant reassurance from others. They do not feel empty when they are alone. They do not feel anxious when life becomes quiet. Their stability comes from understanding, not from external distraction. Inner peace creates emotional independence. Emotional independence creates confidence. This confidence is not loud or proud. It is quiet and steady. It allows a person to remain calm even when circumstances change. Buddhism teaches that a trained mind becomes a safe place. When the mind is calm, even difficult situations become easier to handle. When the mind is restless, even small problems feel overwhelming. This is why training the mind is considered one of the most valuable efforts a person can make. Old age becomes peaceful when a person understands that happiness is not something given by others. It is something developed within. When happiness is built internally, it cannot easily be taken away. It does not disappear when people are busy. It does not weaken when situations change. A person who learns to create peace within themselves carries that peace everywhere. They are not dependent on noise to feel comfortable. They are not dependent on constant activity to feel important. Their sense of completeness remains steady. Inner peace also allows a person to appreciate relationships in a healthier way. Instead of feeling desperate for attention, they feel grateful for any sincere connection that exists. Instead of fearing distance, they respect space. This balanced approach creates more natural and respectful relationships. When a person no longer depends on others for emotional stability, they also stop feeling easily hurt by small changes. Their mind remains steady, their heart remains light, their emotional state becomes more consistent. Buddhism teaches that peace is always available, but it is often hidden beneath layers of desire, fear, and expectation. When these layers slowly reduce, peace begins to appear naturally. It does not need to be forced. It simply needs to be allowed. Old age can become a beautiful period of life when inner peace becomes stronger than external noise. It can become a time of calm understanding, a time of emotional balance, a time of quiet contentment. The person who builds inner peace does not feel abandoned when alone, because they do not feel incomplete within themselves. They understand that life has different seasons, and every season carries meaning. When inner peace becomes the foundation of happiness, external circumstances lose their power to disturb the mind. Silence becomes comfortable, simplicity becomes satisfying, solitude becomes peaceful. True strength appears when a person can sit quietly and still feel complete. This completeness does not come from possessions, status, or attention. It comes from understanding the mind and learning how to keep it balanced. Old age does not have to be a period of sadness. It can be a period of wisdom. It can be a period of freedom from unnecessary pressure. It can be a period where a person finally feels less burdened by expectations and more connected to inner calm. When inner peace does not depend on anyone, fear begins to disappear. Because the person knows that regardless of what changes outside, stability still exists inside, and this stability becomes the greatest source of lasting happiness. Old age is not the end of happiness. It is the beginning of a quieter, deeper, and more meaningful kind of peace. When life slows down, you are finally given something very rare: time to understand yourself. Time to release unnecessary worries. Time to discover that happiness was never outside. It was always waiting within you. People may not always be around. Situations may continue to change. But the person who learns to enjoy their own company never feels empty, because their peace does not depend on noise, attention, or constant presence. It comes from a calm mind. It comes from acceptance. It comes from emotional freedom. Buddhism teaches us that everything in life changes, but a peaceful mind can remain stable through every stage of life. When you reduce expectations, the heart becomes lighter. When you enjoy simplicity, the mind becomes calmer. When you detach from constant validation, the soul becomes stronger. And when you build inner peace that does not depend on anyone, you discover a form of happiness that cannot be taken away. Learn to sit with yourself without feeling incomplete. Learn to trust your own presence. Learn to create peace within your own heart. Because the person who is at peace alone is never truly alone. True happiness is quiet. True happiness is simple. True happiness is within you.